Hey everybody, and welcome to the From Morning to Action podcast. I am your host, Dr. Damon Silas, and boy do we have a treat for you guys today. We have the pleasure of speaking with Danielle Ratliff, and she is the owner of Serenity Now in Cornelius. And this is an amazing massage therapist studio where they have been recognized for the amazing work that they have been doing in this community for the past several years. So not only is she a licensed massage therapist, but she is also a registered dietitian. Now she doesn't use that, but just she does have that background. So just got to make that clear. So I had the pleasure of meeting with Danielle a couple of weeks ago, and as soon as I heard her story, I said to her, I have got to have you on my podcast. And you all will understand why in a moment, but she is a self-proclaimed mental health advocate, and you'll understand why. And this is actually going to be a little bit different. You know, in this podcast is all about loss and talking to people about the losses they've been through. And I love the angle that we're taking with this one. You guys will find out. I believe that is all that I wanted to say before I just let you have the floor, Danielle. But Danielle, thank you so much for being a part of this podcast, and welcome.
Oh, you're welcome, dude. I'm excited to be involved with it. And yes, I call myself a mental health advocate. I am by no means an expert in the field. Like that's your thing. Like, you know, you're a psychologist. Like, you've been through all the schooling and the training. But I've been through a lot of stuff in my life, and I use the word stuff because some people get offended by more robust words. So if we're just chilling and hanging out, like, I might use a different word besides stuff.
I would say you could do it. You know,
yeah, I can do it. Okay. So
I could just click the explicit box on the right. We're all adults here.
Yeah. Okay. So I've been through a lot of shit in my life. You know, and I know that you typically work with people who have been through some kind of loss, typically a death from, you know, or some kind of massive grief type situation. And my loss is a little different in that I was raped. And so in my mind, I lost control of my body and what was done to my body. And so that happened to me when I was 27. That was, let's see, I'm 35 now, so let's do math. 8 years ago.
About 8 years ago? Okay.
And, you know, even before the rape, I struggled with depression and anxiety, like, from the age of 10. Because my brain chemistry was off. And I thought that I had to achieve and produce and be enough to be worthy. And so I was always a high-level achiever and did a lot of cool stuff in my life and was super successful. But on the inside, I was miserable. And then the rape happened when I was 27, and that really turned things upside down for me. You know, it really changed things. I ended up with, you know, post-traumatic stress disorder, and you know, 3 months after the rape, I tried to kill myself. Like, I tried to OD on all my meds. And I knew at that point that I had to turn everything around, else I wasn't going to be around anymore.
Yeah, well, and let me just say this. So first and foremost, thank you for sharing your story. I mean, it's just such a powerful story in terms of your vulnerability, but also what you learned from that experience. And like you said, it may not be a loss in terms of death, but it's still a loss, like you said, a loss of a sense of control over your body, and a loss of some sense of safety.
Right.
Right? And
yeah, safety and trust and you know, just being, you know, taken advantage of and put in a situation that I never asked to be put in, you know, and realizing that you can't trust everybody out there, that not everybody out there is ethical and a good person, you know. So learning that hard lesson and then trying to pick up pieces and figure out, okay, where do I go next with my life? You know, it took a lot of counseling and talk therapy for me. So that's why I think what you do is super important. I've been through years of counseling and therapy, and was on antidepressants, anti-anxiety medications for over a decade. Like I'm just now weaned off of them. It took 2 years to come off of those medications and to be completely natural without some sort of chemical substitute for the dopamine and the serotonin that my brain was missing. But I share my story, and I am vulnerable and open about it because I know that this kind of stuff happens all the time. But people just don't talk about it because there's such a stigma surrounding mental health and mental illness that people are ashamed to say that I'm depressed or I'm anxious or, I've been through some shit in my life and it's affected me. Mm-hmm. I want to be a face for that and a voice for mental health awareness, that just because you're successful on the outside doesn't mean that you're fighting or not fighting a bunch of demons on the inside.
Mm-hmm. Right, yeah, so somebody might look at you in the community or, see you being recognized for these amazing things that you're doing and may not know your entire story, or if it's not you, and so they'll say, "Oh, she has it all together," right?
Yeah, you can look like you have it all together, and you might on the outside. Mm-hmm. I tell people that I wore a mask for a long time. I pretended to be happy when I wasn't, and I was achieving and being successful and doing really well for myself. But on the inside, I was a miserable person, and questioning why I was here on this earth. And just coming to terms with the fact that, okay, some stuff's got to change, so I can be happy and actually enjoy life and go through things and have a positive, experience in this world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what I hear is success doesn't equal health. You can have all the success in the world, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're healthy. Whether it's mentally,
right, it doesn't mean that you are healthy physically or mentally. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing with money. You can be super successful from a financial standpoint. Money doesn't bring happiness at the end of the day. I mean, you can buy all this stuff in the world, but that's not going to make you happy at the end of the day. What makes you happy is finding self-love and self-worth just for who you are as a person. And not depending on others or outside accolades to make you feel worthy.
So that brings up a good point. And even as I think about affirmations, the A of the action plan, what types of things do you say to yourself to lift yourself up out of that dark space and to provide yourself that fuel of self-worth and self-love?
I literally repeat to myself, and I literally write it down sometimes, I am worthy, I am enough. Because ever since I was a kid, I felt like I had to achieve and produce in order to be worthy or to be seen as enough. And it's not that my parents didn't instill that thought process in me. Like, my parents were awesome. Like, they were super supportive, and I didn't have a rough childhood in that aspect. It's just I put all that stuff on myself. And when you're 10 or when you're a teenager, your parents don't know squat in your mind, so you're not going to listen to them anyways. It doesn't matter what they say.
Like, what? How did you don't know anything?
So, I don't know where I came up with the idea that I wasn't enough or that I wasn't worthy of love or of self-worth, self-love, all of those kind of things that I talk to people about now. I don't know where that idea came from, but for some reason it was implanted in my head and it stuck with me for a really long time. And it's only recently, through the talk therapy and through, my losses, the loss of control of my body and what happened to me, and, making some changes, that I've come out on the light side and I'm not lost in the dark anymore from a mental perspective.
Wow. So, and you've already covered the T, which is, like you said, you made sure that you sought out that therapy, and it wasn't It sounds like it took place over a course of years. It wasn't just like, I'm going
to Yeah. I mean, I was in therapy, gosh, in my early 20s, I was in therapy just for anxiety and depression. So this was before the rape even happened. Like, I was put on meds at, I think I was 24. At that point, I realized that there was something off in my brain chemistry, and I finally got help for it. So I had been in and out of therapy for a long time, and then the rape happened, and my whole world blew up at that point. And after the suicide attempt, basically, when you try to kill yourself, they give you two options. They say, you can go to a psych ward voluntarily, or you can go involuntarily, but you're going. And so I went voluntarily, and I spent a week there. And I knew at that point that things in my life had to change. I was working at the time with a local hospital system in weight management counseling as a nutritionist. So I registered dietitian. And my patients were 300, 400, 500, 600 pounds. So true food addiction at that point. And they all had emotional trauma. And I knew that I had my own emotional shit going on. And I couldn't deal with their stuff on top of mine. So I knew that I had to leave that job and find a different career path. So literally, I went on short-term disability. Like, I'm not ashamed of it. I did. I did. And I thought about, what career would be good for me. And I settled on massage therapy because I'd been getting massages for myself. And it was helpful, and it was very appealing to me because I was used to being in a field where maybe if the people followed what I said, 6 months later, they'd lose some weight, they'd be happy, we'd see some progress. Massage therapy, people come in, they hurt, they tell you where they hurt, you work on their body, and find the trigger points, do the work, and they walk out an hour later and they feel better. So it was that immediate gratification, feeling like I was making a difference for somebody right away. So at that point, I knew that I needed to go back to school and kind of start over, really. It was a brand new career path for me, and that was 7 years ago that I went to school for that. And it's been a good decision for me. But it was hard to throw away 5 years of schooling. Or basically throw away 5 years of school.
Yeah, and it sounds like this event, the rape and then followed by the suicide attempt, it really triggered a lot for you to even propel you into the field that you're in now.
It did. It did. I wouldn't be in this field now, I don't think. Like, if the rape hadn't happened, I'd probably still be doing nutrition counseling. So I wouldn't go back and change what happened to me. Like, yeah, it sucked and it was bad, but it's part of my story. It's part of who I am. It's made me who I am today. So I wouldn't change a dang thing about it. In the midst of it, I was not happy.
Right. Like, I don't want this.
I don't want this. And why? You're looking at, God, universe, Allah, Buddha, whatever you believe in, you're looking at that like, what the heck? Like, what did I do to deserve this? And you're asking all those questions, but at the end of the day, it happened. And the only thing you can really control that I've learned is your reaction to situations. You can't control situations. You can control how you react to it. Your
response to it. Thank you so much for saying that. Wow. I mean, it's just, I love hearing that from you because a lot of people think, and I think that's kind of when there's this disempowered feeling. Like, it happened to me, woe is me, and there's no help for me. I'm not going to go talk to anybody or whatever. And for you to take that and say, it really is a testament to our purpose is actually in our pain. And as much as that sucks, and especially right when it happens or right after it happens, you don't want to hear that. You don't want, especially if you're going to a therapist and they say, guess what? Your purpose is in what just happened to you.
Right, you were meant to feel this pain right now. And you're like, well, screw you.
Right, exactly. Like, no, this doesn't feel good. The talk therapy and the counseling, like, that's what saved me. I know it is. Like,